Radio Free America, and this is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
We started out the
Buy things at here websites.com.
And welcome everybody to our Daily Gun Show. Come to you live every weeknight at midnight Eastern, and we talk about guns for a while, or for an hour. So we'll see what happens tonight. This is episode, I forget, 1000 something. So we've been doing this show for quite a while, and in the current incarnation, it is a live conversation. We welcome anybody to be a part of. So throw the link out there. Welcome to jump in and chat about guns, not about whatever they're telling us to chat about every day. So there's plenty of opportunities to chat about that, but I'd rather talk about guns. So that's what this is a platform for. So got Moo out there. Good evening. See if anybody shows up tonight. You'll see to kind of get things rolling. People say that they don't get alerts and stuff, so I should probably go more than a couple minutes here in the beginning. So I'll kind of get rolling here with checking out guncalendars.com. One of our websites where we attempt to keep track of all of our firearms history. The only thing I have over there today is the Gun Rights Policy Conference. We'll talk about that in a second, but I suspect there's more. I just haven't updated the calendar, so I'm going to go back over to here, into the right drop down. I'm going to click on the other calendar. Scroll down to September and let's see what's going on. So it is the 18th. All right, got a bunch of stuff happening. Most of the stuff I've seen on Instagram, so I guess I could just go over to Instagram. I have to look all around for it on Instagram. The problem is once you've seen it on Instagram, it'll not be in your feed anymore. So I'd have to go find somebody else that posted it. Anyway, so we have a couple of things. Nobody really posted about the Office of the Secretary of Defense being 72nd birthday for that because nobody cares. But it is the Air National Guard's birthday. They're 72 years old, and it is the Air Force's birthday. So Air Force is, they're Air Force. They're special. So they used to be Army. They're not Navy. So they're special. They have more than one thing. So they have Air Force Day, which was earlier in the year, because they have to have a special day for Air Force Day. And then they have their birthday. So this is when they officially, the Army got sick of them and they put them in their own place, said, look, you're by yourself now, their own budget or whatever. That was today in 1947. Army was like, look, they're over there making a AK-47 already. Like, we got to worry about that. We're sick of worrying about airplanes also. So they told the Air Force, go do their own thing. That's the story of the Air Force. That happened today. It's also, where am I at? It is also, I guess that's it. So yesterday was Constitution Day. A bunch of people posted about that. And yeah, tomorrow is a pretty crappy day. Otherwise, I have in my notes that AmCon was supposed to happen, but you know what? It didn't happen. It happened a week ago, hidden on Facebook. Otherwise, that's all I have on my calendar. You okay? My dog just jumped up in the air like a cat. At least in her head, that's what she did. So yeah, this is a conversation. I threw the link out there. DJ's out there, to live. Moo is out there, and I'll see if anybody starts chatting. It's supposed to be a conversation, so you're welcome to join in or chat stuff out there, and whatever. So I'm gonna do some of the stuff, I guess. Over the Gun Rights Policy Conference cocktail thing. So normally that is the Gun Rights Policy Conference is at a different town, different city each year. So you go to a hotel or whatever it's being held at, and you meet up with people. And I usually go early and I go check out what the place is going to look like, what the facilities are like. I've found it interesting when I go to these to look at the hotel and how the hotel treats it. Like in Dallas, it was pretty evident. I mean, physically, the building was a little different, but it was pretty obvious, evident where we were in Dallas. In Arizona, it's much smaller, so it was pretty easy to find. However, just not a lot of effort put into signage. Wait a minute. No, it was Chicago. Chicago, though, it's O'Hare Airport, big hotel. Almost no effort at all. And there was 3 levels I'm trying to think where the ground was. I think 2 levels down and then ground level were all conference rooms and of different sizes and stuff. And there was other stuff going on at the same time, big stuff, not just insignificant stuff. So to the credit, Gun Rights Policy was closer to the hub, closer to the lobbies in Chicago, to 2018 Gun Rights Policy. But anyway, these things have always been in hotels, and at least from my experience, they've been in hotels, and I've looked at the history of them. They've always been in different towns or what. So they've, you get there, usually people are going to show up the night ahead of time, at least, the day ahead of time. And, normally in the past 3 years, you would show up a day ahead of time for the AmCon, the 2A Media Summit that happened the Friday before. This year, like I say, they hid that a week before on Facebook and didn't tell anybody, including alumni, that it was even happening. But normally you'd get there the day ahead of time or that night, and you'd be at the hotel or get yourself to the hotel and chat with everybody. I don't know how to describe it. It's not a buffet, like, I guess it's a buffet where you pick up the food and you stand there. Not the kind of buffet where there's waiters and you're getting refills on drinks or anything. So it's not like food. It's just there's stuff to eat. And then, but it's nice, and it's always been fairly elaborate. At least for me, I think it's super fancy. So and then booze. So normally you get there on Friday, and there's that event, the pre-conference cocktail party, I think they call it, and it's catered. And I don't know if you pay for drinks or not. You'd have to ask somebody. And then the event is sponsored by somebody. So they usually get up and say, it's sponsored by so-and-so, thanks for being here, whatever, some words or something, and then they'll leave. They'll let people be to themselves. So in every situation I've been in so far, then like anything, you get several hundred people. There'll be 400 people there on Saturday, so some lesser number of that, but subsequent, a pretty good, decent number of people. In Chicago, it was so many people that I don't think, it took people a while to eat. I think there was enough food, but I think it really took people a long time to wait in line to get to the food because there was so many people. In such a small, it wasn't really designed for like sit-down restaurant, right? So anyhow, this was supposed to be a virtual version of that. I guess I was going to finish with this. The same thing that happens on Friday will happen again tomorrow, typically at the Gun Rights Policy Conference. And I'm explaining all this because the Gun Rights Policy Conference is in its 35th year. I went to the first one in 2015, and then I missed 2016 because I couldn't afford to go to Florida. But then I made it a point to go to Dallas, Chicago, and the last one here in Phoenix for the last 3 years. So I've been to like 3 or 4 of them, I guess. So every one of them, the conference itself is recharging. It's revigorating. Certainly worth going to the conference. Going to the cocktail party is, I don't even know. It's like more than icing on the cake. There's got to be a better way to suggest that. It's just such an amazing situation, opportunity. event. It's just amazing. And that it's more than electric, because you're not just with these people and listening to them, but you're talking to them, and there's no agenda other than conversation for a lot of them. Other people have other things going on. But anyhow, so there's these 2 nights, and they just add so much to the Gun Rights Policy Conference. A big reason why human beings being together, it's still efficient, why the robots haven't taken over yet. So they tried to virtualize that tonight with their cocktail thing, and it did pretty decent. They did it on Zoom instead of on a friendly platform, gun-friendly platform. But what are you going to do? The gun-friendly platforms were invited, but they did it on the platforms that were available to them. So it was Zoom, and it worked. There was 101 people in there. I'm going to say flawlessly. I've seen every other system, I think. There's nothing wrong with the Zoom with 100-something people, minus, I don't know if somebody's working with something behind the scenes or whatever. But otherwise, everybody had access to a camera. Everybody could mute. There was only one dude who kept coughing the corona all over everybody, who wouldn't mute for a while until I snarked, said something, and then he muted. So he was watching. He just never been in the chat, probably never knew to mute, or didn't realize people could hear so much. Because people don't realize how sensitive their mics are when they're not familiar, they're new to chatting or whatever. So anyhow, this was a pretty decent event. I got there late because I was sitting here all afternoon waiting for the thing to show up. It never did. I kept hitting refresh. I kept looking in my trash, my junk mail, spam, whatever you want to call it. And I just couldn't find it. And then it was 6:00 p.m. Arizona time. And the thing earlier in the week had said 6 p.m. with no time zone. And there's just no way they mean Arizona time. So I figured it was already going. So I did another scrub or search of my emails. And sure enough, I found a different thing. It was, I guess, an invitation. When you're going to work with proprietary systems like Zoom, you're going to have to, I'm going to have to be looking for just weird links, I guess, invites to the thing. So you click on the email, which takes you to a thing so that they can count you, which takes you into the room. So it wasn't like this. It wasn't StreamYard in the way that you can just watch this live on YouTube. You had to join the Zoom room and be in there and be one of the 100 people. So there was 100 people, period. There was no audience. The 100 participants were the audience and the participants. So aside from the, not being on a open platform, and a gun-friendly platform, it was a pretty decent experience. I got there about an hour into it, I guess. So they chatted for some amount of time before Alan and his wife and the puppy ditched out. And pretty much after that, well, whatever. It wasn't about 2 anymore after that. So then we'll see what happens tomorrow. It'll be the Gun Rights Policy Conference. That'll be on YouTube, and that'll be 2 4-hour sessions tomorrow, followed on Sunday by 2 4-hour sessions. So those are just set to premiere. And while they're premiering, it sounds like the people who will be recorded, but as they show up on the recording, will be in the comments to chat with people. So that should be interesting. Since it's happening on YouTube instead of some garbage bullshit platform that's hidden in the basement of the internet, the real world will be able to see it, and those comments will be attached to the video, incorporated right onto it. So in the future, if somebody asks a question that's pertinent, it'll be there. A response with a link or something could be there. Now, has the Gun Rights Policy Conference or Second Amendment Foundation's YouTube channel put a bunch of people in as moderators so that actual valid links will show up? Will they be there to drop valid links? We'll find out. They've never done anything that I'm aware of. Certainly nothing that's on their website or on their YouTube channel that indicates that they've ever done this before. So I suspect we're going to be learning tomorrow with them, which is better than them never learning, I guess. When we got people, the 6 the creepers that are looking in here and not saying anything. So there's Moo and there's Barbecue, which probably don't get along, right? For obvious reasons. And then DTP, and DJ. So we've got 4 human beings that are verified, maybe me, and then some weirdo creeper. So of those people, I imagine you probably have, each of you have, including the weird creeper, because obviously they're weird enough to be in here. You probably got more experience live streaming and whatnot than what we're going to see tomorrow. But again, they got to start somewhere, and I guess we're only allowed to do it once a year, so you gotta experiment on the doing it live. Otherwise, there's no way you could have done this a couple other times before. I guess they should. They did it 3 times. They did it 3 subsequent nights, and that's where I ended up meeting Walt, who joined us a couple of times and chatted about interesting 2A stuff. Before I guess he moved along. He's now a big Yankee co-host. Oh, speaking of Yankee co-hosts, it's barbecue.
How you doing?
Read here and see. I don't think that thing got to you already. You didn't get that thing already, huh?
What's that?
The thing that's on its way to you.
Nope.
I'm looking. I think I probably put it in the mail yesterday. Let's see. Oh no, that's a different one. In transit Monday. Yeah, Monday. What does this one say? Monday also. All right, well, people get shit on Monday. I won't talk about it until Monday then. I should probably close this. Nobody needs to see that. And we've already talked about the calendar. All right, well, so you jumped in and we're 16 minutes in. We still have a weird creeper out there and then a bunch of other people. So you got any topics or what?
No, nothing offhand. I completely forgot that the Gun Rights Policy Conference is tomorrow.
Yeah, it's recorded, so seeing it live might be interesting as an individual just to experience the first virtual thing. I mean, I don't know what interest that might have somebody, but then having numbers at the event creates numbers, right? So when they go to talk about it, they're going to say, oh, we had like 1 billion people see it on Facebook and we had 13 people see it on YouTube. Thing is, anybody who saw it in their feed on Facebook will count as having seen it. Anybody who thumbed past it will count as seeing it for a moment. So that's what they'll be fed on Facebook, because Facebook wants them to use their platform or whatever. So by having actual humans on YouTube, which is the only thing that'll count on YouTube, because YouTube won't fake the numbers and ghost a bunch of, flyby, what do you call that? Casual viewers. They won't tag that into the views. The only thing they'll tag is people that are there. And better yet, have an actual feedback. When you, I don't know, we'll see what kind of interaction they have. I suspect it's probably, well, if it's set up as a premiere, I don't think it can be simulcast. So best they could probably do is have the premiere go live. They must have a premiere feature on Facebook, because Facebook tries to do everything YouTube does. So, when the video is set to premiere on YouTube, it's basically scheduled, right? It's basically already uploaded. And instead of just going live, it's scheduled to go live sometime in the future, tomorrow morning. So it'll be a premiere, which means instead of just going live as a video, it'll go live as a video with a live text chat, the same way we have right now in this live chat. So if Facebook is in fact copying off YouTube and doing something like that, offering that feature, then they may have just scheduled the same video, uploaded it to 2 platforms, and then scheduled it to go premiere on both. And then they just tell people, open up 2 windows, feedback on your YouTube side on one and Facebook side on the other. They might do something like that, but we'll find out, I guess. Nobody said anything about it. There's been that I'm aware of, no interviews that talk about that kind of behind the scenes.
So the conference happened today, and they recorded it, and they're just.
The conference was think of the conference as like a puzzle. They told, I think, 120 speakers that would have been to the conference, because normally the conference is a stage and then a room for 600 to 400 people actually show up to and fill up, and then let's say at a time, they might have a panel on the stage of 6 or 8 people, or 3 or 5 people, maybe doctors or some diverse thing or some repetitive thing or some new thing or whatever, some panel of some topic or flavor or perspective or something. And then they'll have those people chat, and they'll each have however long it takes them to chat about something. And then some maybe topics like, I don't know, knife rights or machine guns, or I don't know, some topic, and maybe somebody talking about that. So normally there are quite a few people that show up and chat during or talk during the Gun Rights Policy Conference. And it's not like each one of them is just there for like, I'm here for this organization. So it's not like, and now we're going to hear from, this organization. And then the guy gets up for 5 minutes, and now we're going to hear from that organization. Like there's just kind of, set up so that a lot of people are going to get up and take the stage for maybe 5 minutes, over and over and over for a day and a half. So normally there's 100 and something people probably anyway, maybe fewer, I'm not sure. But they may have put more people in because of the less, dealing with breaks and stuff like that. Like they probably don't need to take breaks with this one because anybody can get a drink or whatever anytime they want. They can always pause it or come back or whatever. So they may have, crammed in a couple extra speakers, but anyway, they have 120 speakers, I think they said. They told them all, give me a 5-minute speech that you want to give at the Gun Rights Policy Conference. And I don't know if they gave them direction or not. Nobody, again, has ever done an interview to talk about the nuts and bolts that I'm aware of. But they basically said, give us 5 minutes, and then took all those 5 minutes. Now, Julianne Allen's wife, who basically, I guess, puts together and manages or orchestrates or produces, or whatever we call the conference, said that, I think she said, 3 or 5? Somebody was out there listening, I forget. But she said some small number, and I don't remember if it was 5 or 3 or something, of the stuff that people sent in they wouldn't use. And it was because she said something like, this isn't about masks. So this is a 2A summit, and this is about guns. So anybody that got off about masks aren't using that content. So they didn't take everybody's, but 120 people sent in videos. So then what Second Amendment Foundation did is take those videos and glue them together, sew them together into a 2-hour, or I guess a 4-hour quilt. 2 4-hour quilts on Saturday and 1, I think, on Sunday, maybe 2 on Sunday, I forget. Normally it's a full day Saturday, half day Sunday, so I'm not sure how they stacked it this time. Oh, thanks, it scared the shit. So I had somebody buying something over at our store. I should use that as an opportunity to plug the store. So the way that we're able to do what we do, which is not run around like puppets and talk about whatever we're supposed to, whatever they've decided is the topic of the day, and we should all pivot, not talk about what's actually happening, not talk about the Gun Rights Policy Conference, but something else, right? Talk about whatever's critical, because if you don't talk about it tonight, what's going to happen? Like, oh no, we're not going to be able to change tomorrow because of it. So as an alternative to that, this show, and when it's not weird manipulation of current events that we're rebelling against or buffering against or whatever we're doing, we're out here to talk about history and interesting shit and the connections and alternate perceptions or perspectives, would say, I guess maybe perceptions too, of 2A. Not just the same old, same old. So anyway, the way that we're able to do that is through Patreon, which we appreciate very much the people that allow us the time to do what we're doing over on that Patreon, which is basically a subscription, very much like PBS or having an old magazine subscription. If you like something and you want to see it delivered, somebody's got to put it together and put it in the mail, so you'd get a subscription to a magazine. And that's pretty much what Patreon is. So that's what's 100% of our bills are paid with that. And then the ability to pay off some of the credit cards and to eventually, if the store starts working, start growing, would be sales over at our store. So gearwebsites.com is our store. And when you buy something over there whenever we're live, the phone is set to make that cash register sound. So what started this whole thing was somebody buying something over there. Really do appreciate it. We have a bunch of products that are not designed to just take your money. There's maybe a couple of things that are sort of funny, but our products are mostly to educate about Second Amendment stuff, to get people motivated, with the playing cards, make people thinking about them in a different way. With the patches, that originally started out as gear identifiers. If you've got a bunch of AK magazines in a chest rig, are those AK-74s or are those AK-47s? Not necessarily obvious at first glance. So having the spam cans in different colors and a little bit different shape, and then obviously different nomenclature on them meant we could create gear ID that wasn't, just didn't say something stupid on it, like here's what this is. So it was if you knew it, you knew it. Now I worked a long time in a cubicle, so having something like a spam can patch on the fabric of a cubicle, gun person's going to know exactly what that is. Everybody else in the world, who knows? It could be some car thing. It could be something from radio or maybe hiking. Who knows? It could be anything. So it's not necessarily our stuff is designed to be gun stuff without being in your face. So we don't just create stuff to figure out ways to charge $20 to you, but instead we offer stuff that's hopefully interesting. It's pretty much when we can do it, made in the United States or made here in Tucson, and meant to foster community conversation. So we do appreciate the people that buy stuff from us. It's not necessary stuff, but hopefully it's interesting and useful to some extent. And if not, maybe it could be an interesting or useful gift to somebody. And it's a way that you don't have to just give us money. We're not asking for handouts. We're in business like any other capitalist, but it allows us to do what we're doing. So we got to pay bills and whatnot. So I guess that's enough talking about that. I should talk about that once in a while. Friday's probably the day to do it because we give away free patches. So again, whoever just bought something over there, thanks, and you'll be getting some free patches. I almost started to put together a patch panel. Probably do that sooner than later because I have this big area that I use for stuff, making videos, and in this case shipping, and it's all cleaned off right now to get ready for the big shipments that's going to be going out. So this is a perfect time to spread out a bunch of patches and do some videos and stuff. So or take some pictures, I should say. So I'll probably spread out multiple patch panels into some sort of a big picture, and then have some, I guess, more current or new pictures for Free Patch Friday coming up. All right, well, that seemed like I was talking for a long time. I don't like doing that. And, like I was asking earlier, if anybody's got any suggestions or topics or what, feel free. I'll throw the link out here one more time. We've been going for half an hour. I know like 25 minutes of that was me chatting about the store, but I don't do that enough, so I do it once in a while. You got anything to chat about? Otherwise,
No, I've never been to a gun rights policy conference. So after each speaker, do they field questions or anything when it's live in person, or is the person just get up there, say their piece, and then get off stage?
well, like I say, they're not quite like that because it'll be like 5 people and they'll just stand up and talk and then sit back down. But yeah, no questions. Every once in a while, somebody will be different. The last, let's say I went in 15, like I say, I missed 16, then I went 17, 18, 19, and this is 20. So in each one of those years, I'd say, no, not each one. In 17 in Dallas was the best year because a couple of people were new to the scene and were put in a panel that, well, a couple of people were put in panels that they didn't want to be put in necessarily. When they were given the opportunity to take the stage, they basically said, yeah, okay, I have a badge, but I'm not going to be, I'm not going to talk about that in this, my opportunity. So I thought that was kind of cool that, like, if a chick was in a panel of chicks, she's like, okay, great, I got a badge, but I'm not going to talk about that. Like, I don't have to represent all chicks. I want to talk about this other important issue. And that happened a couple of times. I'm just picking that. I'm actually hybriding that because I'm pretty sure that was like 3 different people that got up. So that year was kind of cool for changing the dynamic a little bit. So I don't want to say there is a thing, like there is a way. There may have been a way, but I doubt it. I think that the dynamic, the nature of this whole community, and definitely the event, is that it isn't super rigid. And I think it's much like an SKS. It's much like a Soviet firearm in the way that it's got some gaps and it's got some loose tolerances so that while it works reliably as a machine, it's not so German engineered that the little grit of sand or a little difference in opinion is going to stop the whole thing, and then the whole machine has to wait and stop and figure out what's going on or be bored to death while something's happening behind the scenes. You know, it's I don't want to say it's well oiled as much as maybe smartly crafted to be I don't know, to facilitate that. So anyway, they don't necessarily just get up like, you know, conscripts and then sit, you know, stand up and talk. It's mostly panels. So a couple of people changed the deal and did say, like, you know, I've got 5 minutes or I got 10 minutes and I'm going to speak for 5 and then take answers. I think KD did that one in Dallas, in Chicago, in Dallas. I don't remember anymore. I think that was Dallas. But for the most part, it's presentation. Now, you have an opportunity in the evening. Oh, hold on, I'm jumping in. In the evening, you got an opportunity like, well, Friday, nothing has happened. Friday, everybody's just arriving. So it might be commentary or questions about things that have happened over the year or something. But on Saturday, you certainly have a chance to, you know, if somebody said something, you can go up and ask them about it. Now, it's not the same as asking them in front of the whole crowd, but with 400 people, you can imagine. There's a couple of times where there's been opportunities where somebody asked something or I don't know, whatever, and the whole crowd can chime in. And there's just two, like at the end, they'll have a time when you can add new, what do they call it? Like new something to the agenda. And then the group who sticks around to listen to all that votes on whether or not it's a good idea to bring to the group. So anyway, sometimes then people start chatting back and forth, and you can tell pretty quick that if there was just nothing like conversation, it would just devolve, right? It would just be blah, blah, blah. Somebody wouldn't hear somebody. They have to repeat it. And it just, you know, in a room for 400 people, a big hotel room, it's just not conducive to that. Now, if they, not even, because I was going to say sometimes they'll have like a microphone, I guess, for that portion of it, the end on Sunday. They'll have a microphone where somebody has to like walk up, but no, it's more of a presentation for sure than a, I don't know what you would call that, like a, I don't know. I don't think there's too many things that, political things maybe, where you'd have conversation, but where you get multiple groups together, I don't think there's too many conventions where people will start having conversations or something. I don't know if that answers your question. That was a long answer to it. Just jumping in, staying up late.
Working.
Right on.
Yeah, I got knocking out some stuff. So yeah.
So you're going to be watching the Gun Rights Policy Conference tomorrow?
No.
Barbecue, you going to be watching it?
I have my son's birthday party, but as long as I've got signal there, I'm going to try and catch it.
How old is the kid?
He turns 2 tomorrow.
It sounds exactly like, instead of like turn on some record player with some kind of songs or whatever, be like, hey, you know what you want to listen to? It's this lecture from Second Amendment advocates.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I just have too much to do with my kid and stuff. It's a big Boy Scout weekend thing. So
What do they got going on?
we got to go get his new uniform, and we had to get that this weekend. And then I had to go. I'm a Boy Scout leader, or Cub Scout leader, so I had to go pick up. I got to go meet up with some people to pick up the rewards for all the stuff that they did last year after the COVID thing happened. So we gotta go get that, and then we gotta go and present those awards to the kids that we weren't able to present it to last year.
So what is this? You got Scouts or Cub Scouts?
Cub Scouts.
Just Cub Scouts only?
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't remember. I was only in Cub Scouts for a little while, but they had weekly meetings and then do they have troop meetings that are monthly? And then
monthly pack meetings, and then monthly den meetings. But we're doing we're front loading them, so we're doing 2 monthly den meetings because when it gets everything has to be done outside. So per regular,
but normal, like in a normal environment. The den meetings are when den is what, 10 kids or something. Some group of kids probably live close together.
So we have to do everything outside. So we got to do it twice because during the wintertime when it's cold, we're probably not going to be able to do those. So it's just a bunch of stuff I got to get done tomorrow for that. For the kickoff of scouting and stuff like that, and tomorrow's the big kickoff. And I didn't want it to be the big kickoff. I wanted it to be 2 weeks from now, but they said no because next weekend I'm speaking at a 2A rally. So
where at?
Down in Western Virginia, it's called the Guns, God, and Good. It's a 2A rally, and also it's a campaign stop for Bob Good, and I'm going to be, he's a congressman. I'm going to be presenting him with he's a very, very strong 2A advocate, and he is backed by GOF, which is Gun Owners Foundation, which is our PAC, basically. So I'm going to be speaking there and then presenting him with a check from GOA.
So do you still have masks and all that crap out there?
I mean, I wear one. To be honest, I wear one. I see my niece a lot, and she's immune compromised because of the cancer. So,
yeah, well, I'm thinking about for that event though. So,
a lot of people will be wearing masks.
Was it they didn't have to worry about everything else has been canceled because they're saying they can't get a permit for more than 100 people or something. That's not an issue, I guess.
No, because it's in rural Virginia, which is different from where I live at.
Well, hopefully when they start seeing more of that kind of stuff, then with the idea of having it near them too.
Yeah.
I've only heard of virtual ones. So then that one is what you're saying next weekend?
That one's next weekend.
If you got a graphic or something, if you can remember, throw me a link or something on Instagram because I'm trying to track those, repost them to let people know, especially obviously a real life one. So in addition to that one, I think I did hear about one other real life one, but honestly, I just didn't have I'm not recalling it. It might have been in Pennsylvania or something, but I thought I saw another one on Instagram, but it wasn't it was just a mention of it. So I didn't retain it well. But anyway, if that's the one, then I definitely want to let people know about it. But then we have the, the second 2A rally coming up in October. And then I just heard about something else that's happening in October that's virtual. And for the life of me, I can't remember. I guess I could go look over on Instagram and see if that. See, the problem is when you look on Instagram, it doesn't really feed you what you've already seen anymore. For some reason, they've changed it to where once you see what's new, they feed you interesting stuff you might be interested in. And then you have to tell it not to somewhere. And if you miss that, you gotta find it. So anyway, I got to go. I might be able to figure out this other event that I was thinking about. Have you heard of any other rallies?
Me?
Either.
Virginia's been having a lot. We just had a bunch over the summer.
I know there's one coming up. I think it's September 28th here in Pennsylvania.
When 28th?
September 28th this month.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to shoot you over the link to the Facebook link to it.
I don't go on Facebook, so I won't see that.
Okay.
But if there's email or Instagram, I guess.
It's put on by the Virginia Freedom Caucus.
Oh, speaking of that, have you seen The Social Dilemma? It's a new movie. And it's not really a documentary. It's kind of a documentary.
Yes, I have. I spoke about it at nauseum because, as you know, it talked about my old employer.
Yeah. So
And
where did you talk about it at? What did I miss?
100% of it was 100% accurate.
No, I'm saying where was your commentary? I missed that. Where did you do a show on it or something?
I've did a couple. I've talked about it a couple times, and other
Oh,
people.
how long has it been out? I thought it was brand new.
No, a couple weeks, a few weeks.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I
But
just
no,
barely seen it yesterday.
100% accurate.
Okay. Yeah, I just barely seen it yesterday. So there's so much. So what we're talking about, is it a documentary? I don't want to call it a documentary. It's
It is
kind of a documentary.
Yeah.
Well, but there's also like there's parts of it that are a drama. There's like some drama parts to it where they
A lot of documentaries is that.
I guess that seems like weird to me, but anyway, because I like true documentaries. But it doesn't matter. It's a weird documentary, but it's a documentary. But it's the points that it addresses are super, super, super interesting. I seriously think that it's important for 2A. I mean,
Well,
you know from your experience that it's important for everybody, but like for 2A specifically, I think we're a good and probably the perfect community to figure it out and to take the lead and to step away from social in the way that it's being used against us. Keep it as a tool, but use it as a tool and not as a crutch, or I don't know the best way to say that.
Yeah, it's just that's the reason why I quit Facebook. Is the reasons in those documentaries. I mean, I was making a lot of money at Facebook.
So basically, it's an interesting one because it's not an easy topic to wrap your head around. I guess it's not an easy topic to summarize. I guess that's the best way to say it. So the whole thing even starts out kind of awkward, and as I started watching it, I'm thinking, why are people saying this is good to watch? Like, because I basically had seen it, and then I blew it off because I figured it was some fluff piece, right? And then it was Live 76 or 1776 guy on Instagram. He's the guy that does the virtual 2A rally. I don't know if you know that guy. I'm sure you've seen his Instagram thing. Yeah. The name of the film is The Social Dilemma, and the title of it, or the box cover or whatever, is like a broken smartphone with the words "The Social Dilemma" on it. So I had seen it on Netflix. I guess it's a Netflix movie. And then this guy had put on Instagram, "Oh, watch it. That's awesome." And I said something like, "Oh, I was going to blow it off. Is it worth it?" And he said, "Oh, yeah, it's worth it." So that's when I watched it yesterday, I think. And like I'm in the middle of watching it, and I fired off an email to Clover saying, "Dude, we need to have a chat about this because this is 2A stuff right here." And then I'm thinking, yeah, we need to have a chat about it because it's okay. So the concept is that if you're using social as your newspaper, if you're using social as your news, you got to realize that social isn't by impartial. Social is definitely got, what's the opposite of impartial, right? It's got an objective, and it's a profit-based objective. I'm not saying that's good or bad. It's just we got to realize that's the deal. So any news that we're seeing is basically, how do you want to say, like it's a result, or it's a logarithmic result of our actions. If we go into the internet liking the color blue and left-handed stuff, everything they show us is going to be blue left-handed stuff because that's just the nature of the system. And it's not good or evil, but when we go in there thinking that we've experienced it all and everything is left-handed and blue, we're wrong. Am I summarizing it in any way right?
I would disagree. I would say it's effing evil as hell because here's the thing, right? One of the things, and one of the reasons why I left is they found out that negative emotions cause people to spend more time online. So if they show you stuff that's going to piss you off, you're more likely to stay on Facebook and get more addicted to it. So they show you a lot of stuff that pisses you off, and instead of lifting you up, it hammers you down, it pisses you off, it causes all these negative emotions because they know that's going to make you stay on longer. So they're going to poke and prod at your negative emotions just because of that.
But I'm saying it's not because they're Democrat and you're Republican, because they're doing it literally to everybody in any way they can come up with because they just want us to be online longer.
Well, yeah, with that, there is definitely a suppression of conservative voices as well at Facebook. And I'm not the only one that left. I'm a libertarian guy. Libertarians and conservatives have been leaving in massive waves, including at the executive level, because of how Facebook has decided it's going to weigh in and push what they see as right think, I guess you can say. And with the combination of what you saw in the social network, and that I quit before I even had another job because I couldn't stay there anymore. I was just like, this is, I my moral compass was pinging too hard, and I would rather suffer than stay there and trade my soul.
I know. Well, that's commendable. So the movie was, I don't know if it was like about that one guy who starts it, and I think he kind of ends it. And his deal is he co-founded, I forget, some foundation for ethical or something. I don't know. You know who I'm talking about, the main, it wasn't about a person, but the main kind of guy was some co-founder of that organization. Are you familiar with that organization? Is it legit?
Yeah, it's legit.
I mean, okay, I don't mean like fake or not, but I mean, is it pro, like what we would consider individual freedom, or is it just like pro regulation? Because my concern was two things. One part of that movie, which I'm sure I know a couple of people are going to watch that. I know a couple of people who, when they watch that movie, are going to come away and say, oh, they want regulation of the internet. And then other people are going to say, oh, they want some sort of weird socialist money, because that one guy literally says the answer is socialized money or whatever the hell he says. So that's what I'm concerned. Is that organization like truly just, hey, be smart about the internet, or is it like, hey, the internet should be highly regulated?
It's not looking to regulate the internet. What they want to do is they want people to be aware of what these big tech media companies are pushing. Most of the people in that organization came from Google, Facebook, Twitter, and they just couldn't do it because they realized what they're pushing. Facebook, Twitter, and even Google at first, when they were all set up, they were all free speech platforms. Every single one of them. One of their goals is free speech. And over time, that has changed, and now they're no longer purveyors of free speech. And that's what I kind of worry about Parler. Everyone's going to Parler, but people don't realize Facebook had the same standard and had the same thing as Facebook. You got to remember, Mark Zuckerberg was the founder of Facebook, but he wasn't the only founder of Facebook. Peter Thiel, who is a big libertarian, he was part of it. Sean Parker was part of it. All these big libertarian guys are part of it, and even Lucky Palmer from Oculus. There were these big libertarian guys that got part of it, but they all got pushed out. And it's just scary. They all couldn't do it. The bigger social media platform gets, the more that they're going to use machine learning, and the more that they're going to want to push machine learning. And what the machine learning tells them is, if you're upset, you're going to stay on longer. So do I think that Facebook as the executives, the high level, are anti-gun and anti-conservative, anti-libertarian? Yes, I do. I don't think Mark Zuckerberg is. Mark isn't. Mark, I think, is free speech oriented, but Mark doesn't have the power of Facebook. He's a figurehead now. There's a woman named Sheryl Sandberg who actually runs Facebook's day-to-day operation, and she is Moms Demand Action, incredibly liberal person who gives millions of dollars to anti-gun causes, and that's who actually has the keys to the castle now.
So I appreciate the insight, and
Yeah, I kind of have a little bit of more insight than the usual gun guy, I guess.
sure. Now, when we started Gun Channels back in 2013, we could already see that one of the themes of this video that we're talking about, the social dilemma, is the concept that if you're not paying for the service, you are the product. So, or I guess if you're not paying for the product, you are the product.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
people don't really realize what that means. They think, oh, they're going to sell my height and weight and my preferences on TV dinners and stuff. And while that's part of the package, it's so much beyond that. And what this video does is illustrate that a little bit. So when we built Gun Channels in 2013, it was for two reasons. One, to get off of YouTube, which is an anonymous platform. Anybody with an email can create an account and cause havoc and disrupt and confuse and mess with a live conversation or with just a project in general. So in order to step away from anonymous platforms, we created something. So we used off-the-shelf software and created a platform, a membership system, so that guns could be talked about or blah, blah, blah. So that's not unique. There's lots of other places that already existed and people that have done that on different various focus, like area of interest, like reloading or collecting or maybe building guns or whatever. The sports shooting is a big one. There's forums and stuff that do that. Now, forums are a little different because they're owned by an individual and they're not as big as something like a YouTube. If for somehow a forum would have got as big as YouTube, we'd have similar situations, but the scale is so much different. Anyway, so when we built that place, it was an effort to kind of step away from the concept of social as our place online. And I'm going to step back one more step, bird's eye or bigger step in bird's eye view here. When I started on the internet back at AOL days, there was plenty of people, because the internet was so old west, it was just different and kind of rickety, that when they went online, AOL was their entire experience. So there was no reason to go outside. There wasn't a heck of a lot outside on the internet. So they had everything they needed, in AOL. And then move forward and you got MySpace and stuff. People started to figure out what social platforms could do. Facebook came along and established itself. YouTube became a platform, not to explain all the others. But, as we see things evolve or whatever, I've always suspected that, platforms aren't the first thing we went to and aren't the last things we'll be on. So enlightening people with this video or this movie, and people as they see more and more of the negative side of these free platforms, these products, when you think we'll step away from social as being our presence online? They talked about in the movie how people are given cell phones with Facebook accounts, so they just kind of think Facebook is the whole internet. If you're new and you don't know, then you kind of think that's it. People don't have those blinders on, or they don't need to. Do you think we'll evolve from it? No, I'll shut up.
I mean, I don't know. I wanted to go back to what you're saying about, if you're not paying for a product, you are the product. And that's why I pay for a lot of my apps, because I don't want to be the product. And in fact, at Facebook, they sold you as a product. They are modeling everything after you. And it's just not, like you said, it's just not your height, your weight, what websites. It's predictive. Their AI is scary accurate. So they know exactly what products to put in front of you. In fact, when you're on Facebook and you're like live streaming or talking or doing whatever, it's listening to the background to try to pick up audio sounds from your TV and everything. And Facebook has a data center in Forest City, North Carolina, that just has feeds from around the country, around the world coming into it from different TV networks. And this is one of the reasons why Facebook has data centers in 100 different countries, because what it's doing is it's taking the sound from your TV and it's being able to know what you're watching. And
It's
then
kind
when
of
it,
like triangulating you as in marketing space, right? It's like figuring out, it's listening to what your background is so it can have a GPS reference in marketing space, like what
well,
your
not only that, it's like, okay, well, this guy watches Sean Hannity or this guy watches Rachel Maddow, so let's go ahead and build a profile on this guy. Well, he watches Sean Hannity, so we're gonna every once in a while throw him a Rachel Maddow, suggested link, and that's going to piss him off, which is going to cause negative emotions, which is going to cause him to stay online longer. It's really effing sad, and it's just crazy, and you know, it.
I don't know how long the thing was. It was a little long, I think. If they made like a 10-minute video version of it that was just the key points, or maybe a series of 10-minute or shorter ones, it would probably be beneficial for people that aren't going to sit through the whole thing. But sitting through it is awesome. I hear all the time about how if you're not paying for the product, you're the product, and that just kind of goes in one ear out the other. And this does a really good job of describing how the consequences of that. Like they show, there's, like I say, there's some dramatic parts or whatever. So they've got this, I guess part of it is a family. This is the young kid, and he's got his phone, and they kind of show it from the software side of the phone, and then they show the kid's real life over there, dealing with his family and stuff on his side of the phone, a real life side of the phone. And the way that they deal with the kid and the way that they decide what they're going to put in front of them and where, I think they do a pretty decent job of describing, like, now I think that we disagree. I think it's probably not benign. Like they haven't figured out the consequences of their actions necessarily, but I don't think they were evil when they set these things up. They probably were like, hey, if somebody likes left-handed blue stuff, let's give them what they want. Problem is, when you give somebody only what they want, they get these crazy ideas, but it sounds like say you got way more insight. This thing kind of almost it almost leaves it laying there, but it doesn't want to get cast as like tinfoil hat, right? So they're not going to say they go this far, but they open up the door and say, look what they could do, and they could be pretty fucking manipulative, like whether or not a guy's going to get an alert from a girl he likes or a girl he wishes he liked. And like you say, they can tell that, and they know a mammal is going to like something that, they're going to do stuff to manipulate people on a, what do they call it? Like a core level, right? Like they do manipulation here that isn't simply like, hey, do you like this flavor of chip over that flavor? I mean, it's pretty I don't know what the word is, but it's pretty manipulative.
If they weren't evil, then they wouldn't hire psychiatrists to help them build up the AI models to do that.
Right. They'd hire psychiatrists to help prevent it, right? They'd be like, how do we stop this from happening?
Yes, instead of doing that. And also, let's say you keep on going to look at this girl's profile, right? They're like, well, he likes this. Then they take that girl's, because everything is translated into math and numbers, and it's like a big algorithm. And then they're like, this girl has this number. Well, this girl over here is a 90% match for that girl's number, so we're gonna show this guy that girl too. So it's just crazy. I couldn't do it anymore.
Well, and then what it rewards, I guess, with this, like you're talking about machine learning, and again, that's one of those things where if you're not, really interested, what are you going to even know what that means? It could mean pretty much anything, but in this case, it's It's the way that they build these things isn't like, I want this to talk to Jimmy or to introduce Jimmy to Cindy over there. You're gonna build the machine to say, I want you to take all boys and meet them with all girl. Like, it's gonna learn way beyond any having to tell it any specific thing. It's just gonna go do stuff. And then how do you control? All you can do is set these things loose and then evaluate the consequences, right? There's no way to even know. You could look at it after the fact what it did, but you can't know what it's doing at any one time. It's just doing too much stuff at once, right?
Yeah, I mean, it just goes out. The machine learning, the algorithm, as people like to call it, but the algorithm is kind of built into the machine learning. The algorithm is the actual math that it uses to actually do it. But it's now common vernacular just to call it the algorithm. But the machine learning goes out there and it learns on its own. I mean, that's what it does. You don't say match this person with this person. It says keep this person online. So it turns that person from a person into basically a number or like an equation, right? And then matches you up with other equations. It's really kind of crazy and sad. And it's not only Facebook. Look at we can Google the same thing, and the autocomplete for you and the autocomplete for me is going to be totally different.
Right. And I don't think enough people understand the significance of that. And that's what I sort of started this whole thing with the description of that video. The most important thing I think that can come out of it is the understanding that if you consider anything on social as news, that's not correct. It's filtered and designed intentionally to be fed to you. Like, of all the news in the world, they decided to give you exactly what you're seeing based on how to keep you online longer, keep you on the platform longer. It's not like a website. I think the best example that one guy used, that I think it was that weird guy with the weird hair. He says, think of Wikipedia. If we all go to Wikipedia and look at something, it's the same because Wikipedia is Wikipedia. But if we all go to Google, like you just said, and start to type in what is Hillary, what auto completes is going to be different for every single one of us. And literally different computers in our homes are probably going to be different just because there's different cookies and different whatever. So when we consider, or as we allow ourselves to consider what we're seeing as news, we're forgetting that it's being fed to us by something with an agenda, not by an impartial filter or sort. It's being fed to us by an AI, by a brain that's job is to keep us online. And it doesn't have morals or scruples, right? So it says, oh, this guy gets pissed and he stays online for 15 minutes, but when he smiles, he goes offline and pets his dog. And 15 minutes later, we get one dog picture and that only gets 15 views. But if we keep him online, he gets pissed and then he goes and researches something and we can send him 15 ads while he's researching. Then he reposts and that brings 15 people online because he'll alert a bunch of people that he's pissed. So when the logarithm figures that out, is it trying to get you to pet your dog or is it trying to get you pissed and bringing people on board to being mad? And if it's doing that to everybody and it's got no moral or compass at all, like it doesn't even know what it's doing, it's sending people that like left-handed blue shit out in the same street with people that like right-handed green shit. And if 25 dudes who program this thing don't realize the consequences of it, do they even know what's happened?
Yeah, I mean, it's scary. You know what you call something that makes decisions and it doesn't have any moral compass? You call that a psychopath. And I think we kind of programmed a psychopath.
And that's why I don't think we're right beyond hope, because I think that if I look back, and I don't know if they talked about it too good on this movie or in the show that we're talking about, but they did attempt to, I think, that somebody at least had a kind of a rational approach to it. And it might have been one of the deniers, unfortunately, but I still think it's got value. And that's when we got
Did G-Webs drop out there?
Yeah, I'm having bad internet. Am I back now?
Yeah, you're back now.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, so the thing was talking, I think it was during one of the guys who was a denier or whatever, but he was saying, like, as a humans, whenever we got books and publishing, like everybody thought that was the end. Now knowledge is getting out there and not just the church has it. And then we got radio and everybody could hear what's going on. Oh, now the common people know who to vote for. Oh, no, there's newspapers change things. Remember the flyers? We have a whole country because somebody made a flyer. Did Benjamin Franklin wrote a flyer under an assumed name, right? Got a bunch of people pissed off. So, publishing and then technology with radio, of course, internet, phones, every kind of time we come up against something new, everybody's like, uh-oh. But we overcome all this shit and we keep moving on. So when I see that trend, that cycle that we as humans have evolved past over and over and over again, I see us coming to the conclusion that, wow, this was a cool tool. And, just like you don't want to take a newspaper and keep it forever because that might burn down your garage if they ever catch fire. Maybe you want to use the internet in a different way than, for the couple, maybe we'll consider the last couple of years a joke, like, oh, look at that time when we were being manipulated so bad by the dumbass internet. Now that we've got clear internet phones where we can see right through them, boom, boom, boom. Like, we're going to come up with something new. We'll become skeptical about all this. And, I think somebody can come along with, well, I'm using the duck right now. I'm using, what's it called, DuckDuckGo, because that search engine doesn't track me the way that Google does. As people become aware and choose alternatives will appear, right? We'll have an internet that's website-based or something different going forward, I think.
I don't know, man. I hear what you're saying, and I think it's. I just don't see it going that way. I just don't. People just don't care. People look at freaking TikTok, for example. TikTok, they data mine like all your shit, right? And people just don't care. They're like, oh, well, I get to watch funny videos. Well, you're just giving over all your information to the freaking government of China, too.
But again, they don't realize the significance of these tools. So I'm going to jump back to something we broke up there for a second. At least I have bad internet. But when you first started talking that, it made me think of the National Enquirer, the tabloid papers. When I was a little kid, and pre-internet and everything, when I was a little kid, and every once in a while they'd have something like a Maury Povich or one of the, I can't think of their names anymore, but there was like Oprah Winfrey, who was like a real talk show, I guess. And then there was like these other ones where they'd be like, oh, you had my baby, or like, oh, you're really a girl or something. Like they'd have those kind of shows, and those were like considered the tabloid television, and that was going to be the downfall of television. And tabloids were going to be the downfall of news because the National Enquirer sold more papers than Time Magazine or something. So we've had times when just novelty or what's diversion or whatever becomes a questionable, maybe even dangerous. We've had those come before, so I just don't know if this one is we're inevitably going to fail because of this one, or if we're going to just learn from it.
We've never, Facebook right now has over 2 billion users. They would be the largest country in the world.
Well, then another way to look at that too, and I wish they would have done this, is money. Like how big, if they were to put these things as like marbles or something on a table, like I suspect if you took all of Hollywood, that might be a marble, right? And if you took all of video games, that's like a bigger marble, or maybe like a tennis ball. And then Facebook alone is like a basketball, right?
Facebook will make as much as Hollywood makes in a year within 3 months.
So Facebook in 3 months makes what all of Hollywood makes, all movies and everything, Hollywood's VHS and everything they've got licenses to, like commercial songs and crap, all that they're making, Facebook makes that 4 times over every year.
Yep.
Right. So, and then like you say, I heard this, they didn't say nothing about it in this movie that we're talking about, the movie called The Social Dilemma. But I seen in another thing where they talked about, like you just said, how many billion users. Now, I thought MeWe or whatever the hell it is, the Asian one, is way bigger than Facebook.
No, Facebook is large. There's a Chinese one.
The Chinese one, I thought there's one other in social that's bigger, but it's not Facebook. But Facebook was like the biggest English one.
No, Facebook is now. There was a Chinese government one that was the largest one for like the longest time.
Or did maybe Facebook bought the other big one? That wouldn't be.
No, it's still there. It's owned by the China. It's mostly owned by the Chinese government. But once China opened China, that Zuckerberg kept on going back and forth to China, and they finally opened Facebook to the Chinese citizens. And
so now that's when they got everybody. All right. So again, when you talk number of people, the reach or whatever is it's unprecedented. It's never been something that's been able to be done before, because you have consistent reach and control of what people are going to see. Literally every single person is going to be controlled individually through systems, and that's across state lines, across international borders, across laws, spanning industry and culture and politics in ways that no other non-state player has ever.
Well, even state players.
Well, but that's the thing. Like, no state could possibly do this. Like, the most wealthy state with the most spies, like, could never hope to achieve what's been done here. So, but that's where I guess they're a non-state player. Like, they are not held by any rules, regulations whatsoever, and they're larger than pretty much any other thing. Like, if you count it, you put stuff on a table, if the economy of the United States or something is setting down, Facebook's already on that realm, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's I mean, you got to remember, Facebook is also coming up with their own cryptocurrency.
Wonder what that'll do.
But I mean, that they are powerful as hell, and this is where I think that they need to be regulated. I hate regulations, but here's where I think they need to be regulated at, right? Facebook plays fast and loose. What I mean by that is Facebook is exempt from being sued for copyright violations, just like YouTube, because they say, hey, or Google, hey, we're just we are just a conduit. We're not a publisher, blah blah blah, right? But then they reserve the right to become a publisher to censor what you want to publish. So it's I think they're going to have to make a choice, and I think Congress is going to make a choice. You're either a conduit or you're a publisher.
Well, all right. So I guess going down that's going to be a whatever, a consequence, or that's going to be something that they'll have to oblige here in the United States. But it'll be up to them, I imagine, or depending on if other countries hold them to task or something like that. Like, well, assuming that goes through, that's just going to affect them here.
Yeah.
Right? And then at this point, what you're talking about is sort of having to say, instead of straddling the line, pick one side or the other. So again, you got more insight. If they had that option, pick one side or the other, if they got the opportunity to choose, which side do you think they would go on? And then is that a win or is that a lose for us?
Well, I think they won't have a choice, but okay. Well, the DCMA, the Digital Millennium, or DMCA, Digital Millennium Copyright Act, right?
Okay.
what that said is, since it's user generated content and the company don't control what users update, that they are that they are exempt from being sued by like the MPAA and whoever, right? Or also they're exempt from being sued from libel as well, or slander if it's video form, of course, because they are a third party and they just stand back and let whatever happens, right? So, here's the thing. I think what's going to happen is that they can't give up that protection. If they do, they're going to start getting sued left and right by everyone. So if somebody libels you or slanders you, you'll be able to sue Google or Facebook. So what I think is going to eventually happen is they're going to have to choose. And I think that's going to be a victory for us because there's only one way that they can choose as gun people. It's going to be a victory for us. Oh, yep.
So then DJ said a long time ago, and I have it up on the screen here, a great hat. I don't think I've seen that one.
I haven't seen it either.
Well, weird.
Me neither.
And it moved this over. That's happening on the screen, I'm guessing. I tried to copy and paste off the screen and started moving everybody around. Right. So I don't think I've seen it. I just got done watching a different one that's kind of got the same name, but I don't think it's the same.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's from like last year. Documentary film about the Facebook Cambridge Analytica data scandal. So I guess that's the Russian thing or whatever from last year.
Yeah, probably.
I don't know. You got more insight, but I mean, there's going to be times when like you build the system and then you're like, okay, I built my system here. And then somebody comes along and goes, hey, look, if you turn the system upside down and backwards, things fall out of it. And now I've done something with those things. And you're like, dang it, and I didn't think of that. And you change your system so that can't happen anymore. But it's not like you were trying to do nothing. I kind of get the impression that something like that happened. But am I crazy or am I just trying to be optimistic there?
I went to a security conference recently about cybersecurity. And it used to be that most people used to hack just for the thrill of hacking or to discover knowledge. Now, 95% of all hacks are either state-sponsored or for monetary gain. So the old days of hackers just hacking because, that's the way we are, that's the way it's supposed to be, is that's no longer the case.
Well, and even if it is, honestly, those hackers weren't really a threat unless they were inadvertently knocked something over or did something wrong. Like they weren't intentionally there to cause harm. They were just there to kind of tag it and leave, right? So if they were a problem, like they'd be way less. These are people that are causing problems to cause problems, right? Or profit off of it.
Yeah, it's hacking for profit or hacking for espionage, basically.
Or just to screw with people. I got I did watch something that was about the Russian, that Russian group that, I don't know if it's brothers or if it's just a group of friends that kind of figured out the YouTube logarithm and all these stupid little maker videos. And they just made making millions of dollars making these little stupid videos that hit the logarithms. And they make these little software, I don't know what they call them, blenders, or like little hamburger machines. You feed it a bunch of video, it chops all that video up, and it literally just sticks out random auto-generated videos that are made of those elements, but they've never actually been created. So they're just little, they're not clones, but they're just little unique video blobs, and they'll just seed those all over YouTube and make a ton of money, right? I think it was the guy, the YouTuber called Smarter Every Day. I think it was one of his videos that talked about that concept.
Yeah, I love the guy's videos, but yeah, I mean that's basically it.
Yeah, and that was like just a couple of dudes that figured out how to make a bunch of money. And once they made a bunch of money, they're like, now what can we do? Oh, let's get a bunch of jerks from this town to go to one side of the street, then a bunch of other jerks who hate each other to go to the other side of the street on Tuesday and see what happens. And they just did shit like that, right?
Yeah, basically. They just they knew how to work the system.
Yeah, and that's frustrating. You know, if, like you say, if it's a state and you're like, all right, fuck you, Russia, what are you doing? Or if it's like, you know, somebody trying to screw with the cow futures or whatever the hell kind of economy bullshit, like, okay, that's understandable. You're trying to make $1 million. Just some jerks like effing with people to F with people, or like, I don't like democracy. So I know one way to, that whole thing that's going around on Instagram today, you take a jar with 2 different kinds of ants in it, and it's just a jar with 2 different kind of ants in it. You take them and you shake that jar up, they start killing each other, and none of them ants thought about who shook the jar. They're just killing the other ants that they're at war with.
Or where we are in a war right now with 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 different countries. It's just fought a different way. It's not fought with guns. It is fought
Exactly. With like attitudes and with like
it's fought in cyberspace. That's what I think.
yeah, but I'm saying it's not going to be with like arms and legs as much as with like resistance to the bullshit and resilience. Maybe that was the word I was looking for. It's just going to be like getting above and beyond where we're being manipulated. Because seriously, if it's just a bunch of people outside your house yelling and screaming, then that's not the same as the whole world yelling and screaming. You just got to figure out when it's a facade or a charade or an undue influence of one type of thing for some reason. Once we get beyond that, once we see past that, the emperor has no clothes or behind the curtain or whatever, it's no longer effective. And like I say, our history is nothing but that. It's tons and tons of that. It's all the different, the guy with the snake oil salesman, that's a joke now. But for a while, that was a problem. Like people were getting fooled by shit like that. Like the crazy ads that were, X-ray specs or whatever in the back of a comic book. That's a joke now, but for a while that was a thing. Like this is just our version of a thing. But as far as things go, we're doing it on the couches and on phones. We're not doing it in trenches with bolt action shit in the mud, diseases up to our knees.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it is. And I think
doesn't mean you're going to win, though.
It doesn't mean that we're going to win, but I think people need to educate themselves of what's going on and how they're being manipulated online.
Yeah, and it's so simple, though, because like I say, I really like that movie because it's got me jazzed, because I think it's summarized it, whatever. It does a pretty decent job of encapsulating the concepts, because they're kind of tough concepts. People think of them and they go, that doesn't sound that scary. But it's kind of actually super scary. It's like very, very, very scary.
Yeah, DJ out there, DJ Play Nice, makes a great point. He says personal data has surpassed all other commodities as the most valuable asset on Earth. And that's 100% right. And thank you for the comment up above. I just went back and read your comment, DJ. But yeah, I agree with them 100%. 100%. That's why Facebook makes billions and billions in profit. I mean, like they used to send out like, oh, we made $3 billion this quarter in profit. That's not like expensive. That's after everything is paid. That's what. Oh, well, that's what we had left over.
And that's not like, oh, maybe we'll put something towards advertising. That's like once you've got the most aggressive advertising, marketing things going, on top of that, you made all that profit.
Yeah, that's after all operating cost, all advertising cost, all development cost, everything, all salaries is paid. It was like $3 billion, $4 billion every 3 months.
So
statements.
So there's two ways to look at this. So one of the things I've been digging recently is watching videos from the era where they go from vacuum tubes into transistors and then integrated circuits. Technically, like the hardware side of that, like it's ultimately fascinating to watch interviews and things, old documentaries where they talk about literally the process, like how you create an integrated circuit and the science and the research and everything. It all happened fairly quickly, and it's evolved, but it's kind of the same, and it's kind of crude. I mean, it's crazy how low tech it is in a lot of ways. So anyway, it's been really interesting to see this kind of stuff. And anyway, so I'm watching some video. Dang it, where was I going with this? And nope, I started thinking about circuits and got myself off track. So I guess how were we talking? We were saying how nope, I totally lost it. I had someplace I was going with that. Barbecue. Bring it back to somewhere. We've been going for an hour and a half. We do have a couple of people watching. I don't want to dominate with this show, but I thought the show was pretty damn good. So that's why we've been talking about it. We had one.
Got off the gun stuff, guys.
Huh?
Said sorry we got off the topic of guns.
Well, that's what I was going to say. This is 100% guns. And this guy, some weirdo, came in and got all mad, I guess. It's weird. You can't take anyone seriously in 2020 who comes onto a live chat and says goodbye. Like if they're, that's a parody of someone from, earlier in the decade. That's I don't know what that is today, but let's just use it as a topic. So there's somebody that came in and said this wasn't gun enough for him. And that's the thing. Like if you think guns is simply talking about triggers and brands and techniques, then that's crazy. That's like thinking eating the cupcake is baking. Like if you think that cupcakes just come out of thin air and your whole experience and your whole awareness of cupcakes is about what flavor of cupcake to eat or maybe when to eat it, then you're a dipshit baby, because cupcakes come from a whole bunch of ingredients that got to be sourced and somebody's got to buy them, and then you got to know how to cook them, and you cook them for a reason. And if you don't know the nuts and bolts of all that, then you're really just you're hanging out. You're a hobbyist. So you're allowed to. It's a free country and shit. But this chat is about, upgraded from that to people that want to actually take care of business and do something. And you got to know the environment we're working in. And if you just want to take the nuts and bolts at face value, how to use YouTube, how to use Facebook, then you're the product that we were talking about earlier. We're talking about how to manipulate these as tools. I'll let you talk.
Just to show if that dude's still out there, how scary this stuff is. Just why you were talking, just by what he had on YouTube, I was able to find his age, his address, his phone numbers, his email address, where he went to school at, what he did for a living, and everything else, his political leanings as well, all that, just in pictures, everything, his family, his associates, his traffic record.
Yeah, I'll be searching for stuff for like the 2A history project, right? I'll try to find somebody who's born or something. So I'll put in, like somebody maybe like who's alive today. They rarely will have their birthdays out there because they're alive. Who puts their birthdays out there, right? It's usually not till somebody's passed that they'll talk about, their dates. So I'll type in, somebody. Well, I'll put in somebody's name and then like date of birth, and I'll get these websites that are like, I don't know. They're trying to act like they're for a private detective or something, but they're giving you like all kinds of crazy data that I'm assuming it's accurate. But, there's basically just websites out there. You type in a name and it gives you way too much personal data about them. For free. You just don't even have to have an account or nothing. Just type in a search engine and it shows up.
Yeah, well, Yeah, there's tons of them out there. Since I'm an investigative journalist, I have one that's a little bit more advanced than like the ones that most people use out there. It costs a lot more money though.
Yeah, I don't really use any. It's just that I experience them whenever you search. You can't help it. They're fighting for each other for search ranks. So they'll show up as some of the first ones. And if you just need the date, you click on it and find the date you need, and can't help but see all the other stuff. But that's the thing. Most people either don't care or aren't being real secretive about it. So all their stuff just gets shared around there, I guess. I guess I'm not so worried about that. I mean, that's neat. But if that was such a big thing, we'd have been in trouble a long time ago. That's nothing. And it's getting worse every day. In fact, I think that's an indication of how much we don't care about each other in the respects of trying to mess with each other. And I think they did a good job in that movie too. I don't want to make this doom and gloom about talking about some of the super awesome benefits of having such communication. So, I'm not saying it's a bad thing that we can communicate, but I just think we just need to, get to the next level of understanding it as a tool versus a crutch. I'm gonna keep saying that until I figure out some better way to say it.
Yeah, I just think that people just need to be a little bit more educated on.
I think what it'll take is, think of Joe Rogan. Lately, everybody can't shut up about Joe Rogan, right? I've seen the guy. I know who he is. I remember him mostly from that one radio TV show or making fun of radio shows. And, he was a comedian or whatever. So if that guy, I don't know where he is, but let's say that guy gets kicked off of YouTube and then he goes, oh, well, then I'm going to go make the JoeRogan.com place and just go watch my podcast there. And that probably has happened, or if it hasn't happened, it might happen. And if that happens a couple of times, then people quit going to YouTube to watch the thing and they just get used to going to whoever's website. Nobody's going to care. That's not a giant leap. And what do you get there is you get rid of the influence of the socials, because we can all hang out together. We know how to work the internet now. Everybody, it's not hard to go get a website from any of a million places, right?
Yeah, but I think you're a little bit underestimating the draw of the socials. Is I like car videos. I like smarter everyday type of videos, right?
Sure.
I like this video. I can go to YouTube and find my gun videos, my car videos, my smarter everyday videos, all these in one spot.
Oh, yeah. I don't think YouTube is as bad as some of the others. I think Facebook's the most devious one for sure. That's why I won't touch it. And I think Twitter's got some problems because I don't use it and I'm just not aware of it. But it seems like Twitter's got more issues here. But I think that YouTube is unique because YouTube was originally designed to be archival. It's designed to be shelves that can be useful. So when you put something on YouTube, it's youtube.com/your YouTube video, not a bunch of gibberish that changes based on a billion other variables. So it was pretty easy to create something on YouTube and share it with the world. And it's one of the reasons it got so big. But because they kept that archival model versus a stream model, Facebook, it's very difficult to find something from the past on Facebook because they only want you looking at what's next and who else, joining more people, stream. It's all about the next. Where YouTube is trying to do that in fits and starts, but they've never succeeded well for all kinds of reasons. But anyway, I think that's the big difference. And I hear what you're saying, but I think the big difference between the two, or there's some big differences between Facebook and YouTube, where I'm okay with YouTube. That's why I use it. And for this kind of stuff, it offers stuff that is worth the negatives, I guess. But I think that I think these things are like eating I don't know, like back in the day, our parents used to eat like butter and sugar wiped on toast every morning with honey and like an egg on there. And then somebody figured out, hey, cut that back a little bit and you'll live longer. We're going to figure out how to get through all this.
Okay. All right. Well, here's what I would counter to that with. I'm a father, right? My YouTube channel got wiped out recently. Luckily, not my YouTube, my Facebook channel. My Facebook got wiped out. Can't really go into that too much because lawyers. But I know other people whose Facebook pages got wiped out as well, and they lost 10 years of family photos and everything. So a lot of people don't have or can't, because they don't make it an easy way where you can I can go ahead and download all my photos in one shot.
Exactly. Yeah, there's no way to just leave Facebook efficiently.
Yeah, they make it, and that is designed to be that way. They design it to trap you in.
And do they also like have countermeasures so that if somebody says, "Hey, I want to remove myself from Facebook app," all you got to do is plug in your details, and we're going to go harvest all your data for you, put it over here in a nice folder, and then you can walk away from Facebook. I'm guessing Facebook probably has anti-measures for that.
Yeah, it will slow you down so you can only download 5 pictures every. There's a counter on it. So
because the same thing, that same AI that wants to keep you there longer knows all the different ways you might want to leave, because everybody who's ever tried to leave, they learned from, and they've got ways to countermeasure you leaving in any of those ever ways, right? Like, good luck trying to come up with some new way to get off it.
If you build a program to do it, you have to use what's called an API. An API is basically an access point into the system, and it has to be approved by Facebook to actually build it. But let's say you got one through, that the machine learning is going to say, "Hey, this API is pulling all these pictures off the site, so we're going to kill this API."
Yep. We're trying to change subject, so we'll change subject a little bit. We're an hour and a half in. And like I say, we're going to try to have a conversation about that movie, because there's so many things. We've just barely been talking about Facebook, and it's not just even about just Facebook. It's about just social in general. So we'll have more conversation. Anyway, Ozzy went to the range, shot the new Glock 42. So that's the one he bought for his granddaughter, I think, because he's that old.
Well, hey, did you? I got to run, but can I just say one more thing?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Someone once told me that that you're addicted to smoking when you can't just say, "Hey, I'm not going to smoke for a week," and you don't feel that need to check it. And I don't think you even need to do that much with Facebook or whatever. I think that you should say, "Hey, I'm going to pick a weekend, and I'm not going to look at Facebook, or I'm not going to look at this social media platform," and see if you can do it. Then try to do it for a week. And I think a lot of people are going to be surprised when they can't. They can hear that little ding, that ding. Oh, I got a message,
Oh, no, I hear you 100%. They kind of talked about it in that thing. You as a parent got a whole other perspective on or insight on it than I do. But, I can't even, I don't know. That's a whole other topic, I guess. But yeah, it's a good point to leave on.
But thank you so much for having me on. It's always a pleasure to come on and talk to you.
Yeah, right on. Thanks for jumping in.
And you too, Guns and BBQ.
Back at you, Trump.
Oh, yeah, I was wondering. You haven't said anything in like an hour, so.
Sometimes I just sit here and listen, especially when it gets into tech stuff. I say it all the time. I'm a technology illiterate, so I just sit here and soak it all in.
Oh, sorry for dropping some tech bombs on you guys, I guess.
Not dopey. That's what it's for. If people want to get exposed to it, that's the only way, is to listen to people, know they're having a discussion about it. Of course, feel free to ask questions anytime. Break in and say, what does that mean? But this stuff is simple. It's seriously simple. I don't know. I got into this. Feel free to jump out. I don't want to keep it. But I started when I was a little kid. Somebody, I think my mom, gave me this set of books, and it was like how things work. And it was like, how does a radio work? How does a TV work? I forget, how plow works, just whatever, a whole bunch of stuff in there. And I just said to myself, I don't want to own anything that I don't know how it works. And I started with a TV. And, however old I was, I decided at some point I knew what was going on a TV. I satisfied myself that I had some concept that I knew what was going on. And I moved on from there. So whenever I, just think about that, whenever I'm buying something, I just like to think about what's going on in there. So yeah, the what we're talking about here on the internet, to me, when I started playing on the internet, it was just an outcropping of cars. You know, if you're gonna, or toys, right? You got toys, you got Legos, you got toy cars and stuff, you got wheels, you know, you got a real car, you got wheels. You start figuring out that there's component parts and some things can be upgraded or changed, but you know, there's some framework or chassis, and then there's things that do things. They make it go, or they steer it, you know, they give it power, or they give it comfort, or they give you air conditioning, right? There's components. Computers are nothing different than a car. It's just obviously a different machine. But once you figure out how a machine works, an Apple is just the difference between a Chevy and a Ford, right? An IBM is just the difference between a VW and a Porsche. I mean, they're just different machines that kind of do the same thing. They just look different, work a little different.
Well, here's one of the things that do you know how they came up with the spelling for byte, B-Y-T-E? Why it's
No,
called?
I think I know the guy who invented the word, but what's the story behind the word?
They wanted a way to know if somebody was technical or not, so they changed the spelling of byte. And in the computer field, you have a lot of that. For example, cloud. People like, oh, cloud computing, cloud storage, cloud everything. You know, that is a marketing term that a lot of companies use, but the cloud has been around since like the 90s. It's a data center. Data centers, you know, rack space started popping up in the mid 90s. It wasn't called the cloud, but it's the same exact thing.
Yeah, exactly. And if your experience to it is just hearing the brands and the people talking about functionality, then it's obviously going to be a little taunting or different or whatever, however you're going to experience it. But when I look at it from my angle, I think of the computers as just parts, and then a computer turns on and it has to wake up and do some stuff, and that's where the hardware and software mix. Once you figure that stuff out, you kind of get a concept of how software works, and software is just like everything else in the world. It's just a bunch of parts that have different elements, and some of it's shared and some of it's unique. And anyway, so you know, as you start to look at this stuff of what it is and not what it does, then you know what we're talking about, how social platforms and stuff work. Again, that's just, you know, when we look at something like a firearm, do we go, oh, this 9mm magical item that all I can do is load it and pull the trigger, and then it's up to somebody else to take it apart. It's up to somebody else to fix it. Oh, it's not my decision to put a different pair of sights on this thing. Like, oh, it wouldn't be up to me to decide what holster to put this in. That's for somebody else. Like, why should we use the internet like it's some magical thing that like doofus nerds over there somehow have magical access to? I guess that's one of the things on that movie too. They kind of made that point that there's probably like 25 white dudes in California that kind of started half of this shit, because that was who was involved in creating the initial part of it. And it's not like you need 1 million people to run these things. Like, you need a department of 15 to make decisions on what color walls are going to be in there, but the software is just running, right? Like, nobody has to dink with it. There's no knobs and levers or anything.
You know, Facebook is constantly updating their software. Facebook has so many software engineers. I'll leave everybody with this. Software is, even machine learning software, it's all it is a set of instructions that someone tells a computer to do. That's it. It's just instructions. If you look at programming, it's like if, then, what, you know, like move 3, repeat, blah, blah, blah. So software is just instructions. That's it. There's nothing magical to it. It's just a list of text instructions.
Yeah, and everybody's just like words, right? Everybody's got their own way of writing it.
Mhm.
Some of them are similar, some of them aren't. But
Yeah, but
you don't
one of the cool things,
you don't have to read every single book to know what books are, right? You don't have to know the entire language to be able to, you know, communicate with somebody. So I guess that's what I'm trying to get to people. We're just trying to let you know that it's just it's just stuff that's manageable. Once you get it conceptualized, then you can just blow past a lot of this. What looks like difficult, different things all tend to really from the other side just kind of look like a bunch of different facades that are all about 8 different things.
Yeah, and it's interesting. And it's just instructions, and most of it's built on top uh, of off of each other. Programs isn't hard. To make a program, it's hard to make a good program because um you know because you have to. It's just there's an art. I mean, I wouldn't even say there's an art to it. It's just
Well, definitely. It's like poetry or something. You can put a bunch of words down and get a concept across, but then you can do it well and you can do it clunky, right? So there's good programming and then there's adequate programming.
well, it's not even like I wouldn't say it's art. It's just how lazy you're going to be. You can always comment
Experience.
a command instead of rewriting it or removing it. You can comment out something that doesn't work and just rewrite it, and that's why some programs are big and other programs are small. And now there's a bunch of visual programming languages now, which is kind of cool. That makes it even easier to program. There's like Appy Pie for apps. You can go freaking build yourself an app with like no programming knowledge in like an hour because it's all visual.
Yeah, well, you got to go because you got scouting tomorrow. And sometime we should have a chat about coding. I'm thinking about doing Python a little bit. So it'd be curious to
Python 3 is, Facebook is all built on Python.
So, but in the future, we've got a couple of things to chat about.
Yep.
Thanks for jumping.
Yep. I know. Thank you, man. I'm going to bed now. It's 2 a.m. in the morning. I was almost done, and I saw you on. I was like, let me talk to G-Web for a minute.
Right on.
All right, later.
He had a chat earlier with, Tony and another guy who is an author that I can't remember his name because I never heard of him before. But interesting chat earlier this afternoon. It was before the Gun Rights Policy Conference thing. So yeah, he's going Cub Scouting, it sounds like. So, as a scout, I always ask because Cub Scout people act like they're scouting when they're Cub Scouts, but when you're a scout, you think of that as scouting, and Cub Scouting as Cub Scouting. But sounds like they're getting their stuff doubled up so that they don't have to be outside during the winter. I don't know if that's cool or not. It would be fun as a kid to be able to do twice as much stuff, but then I don't like the idea of having to not do stuff for a while. That would suck. Were you a scout?
No, I always wanted to, but with all the other activities that I had and my parents' finances, it wasn't in the cards for me.
Yeah, I don't remember like what scouting cost or nothing. It probably cost something, I guess. You had to buy uniform. Half the time we got our shit handed down to us if you needed it. For sure if you needed it. I mean, like no questions asked. Like there was always stuff. Somebody had an older brother or, somebody who was not in scouts anymore would like donate their stuff. So there was always something, especially camping gear and stuff. But I don't think it was, I know it was cheaper than hockey. I'm pretty sure hockey was the most expensive thing. And I'm pretty sure football is more expensive. But I never give a shit about sports, so that was never an option for me. My parents never gave me shit about it. But most of the time in scouts, you go earn your own money for everything. Like at least for troop level stuff, that's part of it is figuring out how to be self-sufficient, I guess, like how to provide. But anyway, so it also depends a lot on a billion other things. You had kids that you knew were in it, and then how close it was, right? For us, it was for little kids, you would just stay after school, and then the rest of us, you'd have to walk somewhere. But that wasn't a big thing back in the day.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how it worked in my area.
Back in the day, at least, it was pretty much, at least where I was at, if there was enough kids, they would just make a new troop, or if there was far enough away, they'd make a new troop, and they would just stick a troop wherever. So you'd have church troops, you'd have school troops, you'd have YMCA troops, maybe like a VFW hall would have a troop, like anywhere that would be willing to let the kids meet up and probably you have to have like a shed, like some sort of a place to keep all your tents and shit. Or maybe like our one, wasn't more than one troop, but we would have, in this one church, we would have like a room down in the basement where we could have all our tents and stuff. So they got to have like something like that. Imagine nowadays you'd probably have one of those little shed buildings and then just tow it around to wherever, or put it in a contractor trailer. That could work. And then you just park that someplace where you have meetings, and then you need a place to have meetings. But I really didn't pay attention to the politics, but I'm guessing religion was probably in there because, you know, this troop would have their kids. They'd let other kids in, but, you know, the church is going to want to have their own troop or something. Because it seemed like all the churches had their own church troops. But then either that wasn't enough or probably wasn't enough because all these troops would start getting huge. So all the schools pretty much had one. And even then, it sounds like a lot now that I'm saying it, but it was like 1 out of 30 kids was in Scouts, maybe 1 out of 50. Like there was not very many kids in Scouts, but still we filled troops in all different kinds of venues.
Yeah, it's definitely something I wish I could have been able to do.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. Now all I'm hearing is garbage shit about it because probably a bunch of people had never even been in it. But, you know, it was pretty cool. You'd have older kids that ran it, younger kids that would join in as Cub Scouts. And as Cub Scouts, you play crafts and your parents, your mom, and, I don't know, bake cakes and shit. And then, you know, you're entertained and you tie a knot or something. Then you basically start learning what it's like to have a uniform and do stuff. And then by the time you're a Cub Scout or a regular Scout, you're still a little kid, but at least you're probably old enough to shut up, I'm guessing. I don't know when they do that transition, who figured it out, but it's probably when kids start to calm down. So you become a Scout and then you're useless for a while, just like in the Army or something. Like you're useless for a while. You're just new and you probably don't care. Or maybe you're new and your older brother is in it or something and you care a lot. But, you know, somewhere in that spectrum where you're just some kid that moved to town and somebody threw you in there thinking that would make new friends or whatever. There's like a million reasons. So you get a bunch of kids that were new and then they get distributed out into into patrols, I guess, in the troop. So a troop would be at a church or a school or something. You'd have like however big the troop was, maybe 3 or 10 patrols of 10 kids each. So you'd have all these different kids you get a couple of young kids, a couple of medium-age kids. What's medium age? Like, you know, old enough to hold a knife and do stuff, start a fire, set up tents and shit like that to boss the younger kids around. And then you got the high school kids that are making all the plans and doing everything. And then everybody's just, you know, learning from the people above them. It's awesome. And then when you got a good troop, and that's why I jumped around because I wanted to be in a troop that was doing something. You get troops that are motivated to get rank. You got troops that are motivated to go play soccer or something stupid. You got troops that are motivated to do something else. Maybe like a church group would be like super motivated to do service projects. Our troop was motivated to do high adventure, meaning you leave us alone, we're going to leave for a week and we'll be back later. So we just would raise money all year and make beef jerky and build new equipment and then get in a big ass van and drive, spend like 2 weeks doing something in Canada or something, and then come back and start over. So we had this cycle down. So the older kids knew what to do to make it happen, and the middle kids knew what to do to make it happen. Like, because the older kids would make certain things happen, and the middle kids, you know, the kids that are in the middle age would kind of have seen it happen, and they were getting to be part of it now. So it was awesome. And what you end up with is capable kids that have seen stuff happen. They know what teamwork is. It was pretty awesome. And then, like I said, you had to make money. So you had to figure out how much stuff was going to cost. All year long, you'd be going on campouts and stuff. Each of those would cost money, and you'd learn budgeting. I didn't retain much of that, obviously. But, yeah, good stuff. And then I was going to ask Crump. I was asking Crump because I'm not sure what it's like anymore. But then in Cub Scouts, you're too little because you're just a little kid. But in Scouts, well, for us, it would be quarterly. You'd have first aid meets where all the troops would get together in a region, basically. So it'd be maybe dozens of troops sometimes, 14, 20 troops getting together. So troops, patrols of kids. So 10 patrols, maybe 3 to 10 patrols of 10 kids per troop. And you're getting dozens of troops together. And we'd show up at like a school auditorium or something, and it would be a first aid meet. It would just be dead bodies all over. And you'd be a bunch of kids, and it would be the same thing. Little kids bringing bandages, and it was pretty awesome. And then you'd compete and see who got the best. And then there was pride there, like you wanted to beat the other troops, and there was ongoing competitions and stuff. Then when you had camporees where you do the same kind of thing, camping, doing skills out in the woods with hatchets or shovels or ropes, fires. And again, you get little kids going and getting wood and figuring out how to be useful. Middle of the kids would basically be doing all the work, and the older kids would be doing the strategy, figuring out how to beat the other troops. Parents would show up and drive us around and leave us alone.
Yeah, the most exposure I've had to scouts in any ways, my cousin did it. And I would just randomly get told, hey, we're doing a spaghetti dinner benefit or something, to raise money. So, I'd go in and give them 10 or 20 bucks, whatever the cost was for the dinner. And, scouts would bring you over a plate of spaghetti or something, sit there, BS with a couple people you knew, and then get up and leave.
Yeah, we would have pancake things, spaghetti things. Those are neat. I mean, you learn how to not kill a bunch of people feeding them. That's smart. Because, you have to learn how to pay for it all and not lose money, make money doing it. And you keep a bunch of people motivated. Yeah, it ain't easy keeping a bunch of little kids who'd rather probably sit on the ground playing in the sand, right, than doing anything else, to get them up doing something to make something like that happen. But then you figure out what the payoff is, and they figure out what the payoff is when they're farting around for 2 weeks in the middle of nowhere by themselves.
Yep.
Let's see. So DJ's saying the Cub Den was 7 dudes. See, I can't remember Cub Scouts, but 3 in Weeblos, and I don't remember any of that. I did it. I had 2 Cub Scout things and Weeblos, but it was just so long ago. I remember it being useless. Like, I didn't like it. And then I liked it once I got into Scouts, because it was basically your mom, not my mom, but, like somebody's mom, whoever's house you were at, like putting something in your hands and then watching you do it and then taking it away from you. So it was boring. Scout troop had 12, so that's kind of a small troop. That's like 1 patrol or probably 2 patrols so that you could fight once in a while. And then made it to Star. So it went Tenderfoot's what you start with, I think. Maybe nothing. And then I think it's second class, first class, Star, Life, Eagle. I think it goes like that. So you basically got to where at the beginning it's just be there and do stuff like basic shit, like kind of understand that there's a constitution and just dumb shit you would know as a kid, I guess. But you get some amount of rank, and it's probably figured out so that it's doable and achievable, but not quite given to you. They probably could give it to you if they wanted to, but they could make it, useful for the kid to start learning. And then somewhere, like, I forget anymore the details, but somewhere in the middle there, I think it starts to get exponentially difficult. So anytime you hear anybody that's got Star, Life, or Eagle, then that means they put time into it. They didn't give anybody Life. Like you had to, Star or Life. You had to start doing stuff and putting in extra time and probably taking on a job. Like you could go to Scouts and be an observer, hang out and have good times. Like never really do any of the hard stuff and do all the fun stuff twice over because you were there for it. But and nobody, what are you gonna do? There's people like that. But you don't get to Life and Star like that usually. Although there are paper eagles, there's people that just coast, get pushed all the way through. So you learn what that's all about too. I'm assuming DJ's not that guy. because usually that guy wouldn't stop at Star, right? He'd get it all the way to Eagle. Although I did know a couple of guys that once they got to Eagle, there were papers, and as soon as they got there, they were like, no, they wouldn't let their parents push them over, or if they did, they were super embarrassed and quit because they couldn't hang. Like, you can't hang when you're nothing and you're hanging out with people that earned it. But you can definitely be given it. I've seen troops where some kids just are, they don't even have to do anything. Literally, they just get signed off and they just have badges and awards and shit. I don't know. People, it's their little game, I guess, right? Well, everybody that comes into this troop is going to have Eagle Scout. The Red Cross certs, yeah, we would go. I mean, how many different? I was in, I don't even remember anymore. It would have been a long time ago. 80s, right? And early 80s. I don't know how many. Even when I was a little kid, we went through 3 different CPRs, and they probably had 7 different CPRs while I've been aware of CPR. So Red Cross certifications is something we would do pretty much yearly. And I would never miss that because for us, that was going to a fire department. So definitely that was fun. Going into the fire department, hanging out, going inside and upstairs and stuff. It was awesome. Popcorn, we were allowed to glean a farmer's field after harvest, clean and jarred. What? How old are you? Because there was popcorn when I was done with Scouts, and that was the garbage in a bucket. Like, you would get popcorn from some company. It was like the equivalent of Girl Scout cookies, except it was Boy Scout popcorn. And it was, I don't know if it was good or not, honestly. It was what we had to sell. But it was, I don't know, heavy, like, little buckets of popcorn that was unpopped. And then some kind of brick of gross shit in there. Yellow turd with salt in it. And then, so you had to deal with that yellow turd busting open and somebody being like, oh, I don't want to pay for this. My yellow turd is touching my corn already. And I don't like to do that until I'm ready to eat it or whatever. Or it was just heavy for little kids. So you'd get like 17 little tiny kids trying to carry popcorn and they bitch and moan. It's like a bunch of 9mm people having to carry a 45 ACP around is like what it's like having a bunch of Cub Scouters trying to carry around things of popcorn. So you had totally different popcorn. We had poinsettias. We would get some farm, or somebody had some deal going where we got poinsettias for cheap or maybe free. I don't have any idea. And then we would go door to door selling poinsettias to people. So that was 1. Then we would go sell for a spaghetti dinner. 2. We would sell for a pancake breakfast. 3. We would sell for some other thing one time where you have pieces of paper, and I don't remember what that was anymore, but you'd sell these pieces of paper for some sort of scam or ballot thing or whatever that's called. And then probably more. We would go door to door for summer camp, for our summer camp where we went to summer camp, and then we would go try to sell stuff for our adventure. So we would go to 2 weeks of summer camp, and then I would stay and be a counselor for more. But then our troop would go to summer camp for 2 weeks and then go on a high adventure. They called it in Scouts. If you go somewhere that isn't a prescribed camp, I think they just called it high adventure back then. It means do something on your own. So every year we would do like 2+ weeks of our own thing up in Canada, basically, and then 2 weeks of summer camp at summer camps, like what you see in a movie where there's like a lake and cabins and shit like that. But our summer camps never had cabins. We had just places where you would set up your tents. So it'd just be forested areas. They'd have like a place where you ate dinner or sit together in a mess hall. A couple of buildings, but we didn't stay in cabins like some fancy rich kids or something. I switched to girls and cars, don't regret it. I stuck around because I was both in Civil Air Patrol and in Scouts, so I had 2 things going for me. One is that you gained rank in the Army for both of those. So I got rank for being Eagle Scout, and I got rank for being second lieutenant in Civil Air Patrol. And Civil Air Patrol has girls, and you go places overnight and there's girls. And Top Gun had just come out. I rest my case. So I didn't have to worry about that. I could be in Scouts and be just fine in that area. And I got 2 stripes when I went in because I knew how to do stuff like march around and be bottom of the pile and be understand it from the top of the pile and the bottom of the pile. So yeah, we're probably in about the same time. It sounds like you're probably in a little bit before me. If we're talking Cub Scouts, we're probably talking the exact same time, actually. I think I was probably in Scouts in like 85. So I might have been in Cub Scouts in like 83. I don't really remember anymore. I'd have to start doing some kind of math backwards. I don't know where you go off of. 6th grade, maybe? Where you go into junior high? What the hell would you be in Scouts when you're in junior high? I'm scared to type something like that into a search engine now. I don't care really that much, so I'm not going to type it into a search engine. But that'd probably be where you have to. No, you go into Scouts way before junior high, I think. I think you go into Scouts in like 5th or 6th grade, maybe. Back in the olden days, you could walk around in 5th or 6th grade, do whatever you wanted. Nobody ever cared what you did. Like you could go door to door. I don't know if you can do that anymore. I wouldn't open the door if a bunch of kids came to my door. After popcorn, we did door-to-door Christmas paper. We never did that. Is that like just around, like your troop did that, or was that like a big campaign? I don't know. Like I say, kids don't go door-to-door anymore. First of the year, we did spring cleaning. Holy crap. That's interesting. If we did something like that, we would call it like a service project, I think. But we never did anything like that. It's interesting. I've never even heard of that. I think the last thing I would ever want is for a bunch of young boys to do anything in my house ever. Like they would either break it or steal it, or both. I guess if you're like a real old lady, what are they going to steal? They're going to break everything.
I wonder if they would go to like a local college or something and clean out dorms.
Hopefully, the college is going to pay a kid to clean with them. I don't know. I guess somebody did, I guess. Oh, so let me search. I did that. It was 13 and 83. How do you figure that out? Oh, I don't remember. 84 is when Red Dawn came out. Let's just leave it at that. Yeah, so it was like a local thing. So was it the kind of paper that's, I guess if it was folded, you could put a whole bunch in a backpack and carry it around. But if it's those like rolls of paper, that seems like a really awkward thing. Oh, yard cleanups? I could totally get that. Like almost everybody will let a bunch of kids go out and clean their yard instead of them having to go clean their yard. Because who the hell cares what you break in the yard, right? Oh, you broke my rock? Or, oh, you broke that lump of logs or whatever that was? Oh, you stole a bunch of dirt? Who cares what kids do to your yard? All right, well, so I guess by Monday, this guy will have what's coming to him in the mail. And that one girl that was out there earlier, get what she's got coming to her in the mail. And then we can talk about the stuff that they've got coming to them in the mail. So, but if I keep going after 2 hours, I'll lose my whole night here. So, yeah, folded, I guess I could see that. Give a bunch of kids folded Christmas wrap in their backpacks. People are going to feel obligated. Back in the day, I'm sure people didn't care about whatever we were. Well, I guess you could tell when people came to the pancake breakfast or the spaghetti thing. Then you could tell if they cared because they actually showed up. But for the crap that we would sell them, I'm guessing a majority of that was people just knowing that was helping us out, right? Like giving us donation, basically. So I don't really think too many people were like desperate to get our poinsettias. What about patches? Am I missing something? All right, well, I guess not. So where was I going? I guess with that, we're going to start wrapping it up. Oh, I guess I was saying that I lose my night. If we sit in here for 3 or 4 hours, then I come out and I don't have any time to work on nothing. And I still got a couple of things I could be working on. Let's see. So you missed the gun rights policy conference earlier. If you're a Patreon, there's a link. I set it to what's it called? Unlisted, so that normal people, regular people can't see it, but you people can see it. Basically, I don't know how good the audio is. I haven't really listened to it, but it's an hour of the discussion, and then I don't know, a couple of minutes at the end where they started talking about booze and stuff. So I just figured it wasn't that great. So it wasn't like a presentation that anyone would be impressed by. So I left it from being private. Oh, it's not even patches. No, it's not even patches. Let me think. No, it has nothing to do with patches, really. Actually, nothing. Well, okay, tiny little sliver of it. If there was a pie graph, like a little slice, a little orange slice, it'd be patches of it, but it's not really patches. So if you want to watch the Gun Rights Policy Conference tomorrow, it'll be on 2 large 4-hour videos that are already on YouTube. They're set to premiere. I'm probably going to go live in a room like this on El Pato, the StreamYard, a fake Canadian version of YouTube Hangouts. And that way, anybody that wants to can jump in and we can talk wise or smack about the whoever's talking up there and come up with great ideas and amplify them. And I don't know, just generally have a good time listening to Gun Rights Policy Conference. If you've never had an opportunity to experience it, for me in 2015, it set a whole new direction for my interests in all of the stuff that I've been doing. So I had changed, or had been changing the direction of art projects. And when I went to that 2015 conference in Phoenix, like I say, I don't know, it gave me the equivalent of charging my batteries. I don't know what else to say for 2A. Gave me a reinvigorating, a reawakening of interest for the Second Amendment and awareness, meeting and experiencing some people that had just an understanding, firsthand, like an at-hand awareness of the situation that we're in. And my awareness was vague at best. It was great. And it was great to be in a room with all those people and have the experience of seeing those conversations that were going on. And as I've become more interested in that and focused on it, obviously I've become more aware of what they were talking about. And my passion now has been to try to get that information across to as many people as possible. So if you want to experience some of that with everybody else for the first time in a virtual way, I'm just preaching to the choir right now, but just for prosperity, I suppose, is tomorrow for most of the day. So we'll be live, and join us if you want, and bring some, I don't know, popcorn, Boy Scout popcorn, I guess. Something to drink, maybe, not booze, because it's going to be going for 8 hours. You'll be quite drunk if you were to start drinking booze for that. And I can't think of anything else to say. Barbecue, you got anything else?
No, I've got nothing.
Well, you'll get something because you got something. You got what's coming to you in the mail.
Yeah, I'm
So-
intrigued about that. Will you give me any hints after we go off air?
The hell would be the point of that? No. So anyway, with that, we'll be back to pick you up later.